Hey guys, and welcome to another reading vlog video. I am very excited to do this one because I have only done this once, but I did reading thrillers for a week, and I'll put that video here. But that was very fun to do, and it ended up being a little bit more than a week. And I'm just gonna say right now, this is gonna be more than a week because I don't know if I can read all these books within a week time frame, especially since today's video is reading fantasy for a week. And if you know, fantasy books tend to be a little bit longer. Sometimes they can be a little bit harder to read, but most of these are YA, if not all of them. So maybe they will be a little bit easier to read, but they're a little bit more lengthy than like your typical romance or thriller book. But I'm just calling this reading fantasy for a week because it sounds good, the title sounds good, but I'm also going to keep track of what I read each day so that I can also be real with you guys what I'm reading. Today is Sunday, so we will just go on from there and see when I finish these books, because there's gonna be 3 books I'm reading for today's video, and they're all very exciting, and hopefully people want to see me reading them, and so that's why I definitely want to try to do these 3 within this video. So the first book that I'm going to be reading for this video, which I actually already started last night, but this is The Ballad of Never After by Stephanie Garber, and this is the second book in the Once Upon a Broken Heart series. I think that's what it's called. And I read Once Upon a Broken Heart like I want to say almost like 2 months ago, so it's been a while. So last night when I started this, I went back to Once Upon a Broken Heart and read the last few pages. Tried to watch like a recap on YouTube, but there wasn't many. So I feel like I only got to like page 30 last night because I was really tired, so I haven't read much, but it is exciting being back into this world. The first book kind of took me a little while to get into the world because I did not read the Caraval series before reading this, and I guess they suggest to read the Caraval series because it's the same like world, but it's different characters, so you don't have to. But the first book, I think I gave like a 3.5 stars because I really liked the second half of the book, and so this one is just a continuation of that, and the first one did leave off on a cliffhanger. I'm not going to say too much what this is about. I'll kind of give more as I'm reading, but this is also going to be spoiler free. All this is going to be spoiler free, so if you haven't read these books, don't worry, I'm not going to give anything away. So yeah, I'm not going to give too much until we start reading, and then I'll kind of tell my feelings about certain things, hopefully not giving much away. It's hard when it's like a second book in a series. This is the only one that's in a series right now, or that's a second book in a series. The other 2 are first books in a series. I think this one's a series. The second book that I'm going to read, I'm very excited about, is Divine Arrivals by Rebecca Ross. And I'm excited and nervous because my cousin actually picked this one for our book club, but also I've been seeing this everywhere. So I'm excited to read it now when it's like being hyped up. But I'm nervous because, I don't know, it's about like gods, and I don't really like reading stuff like that. So it will be interesting, but I really don't even know what too much this one is about either, and once I get into them more, I will obviously in the reading vlog tell you more of what they're about. But the last book that we're going to be reading in reading fantasy for a week is probably my most anticipated one, and that is Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros, and I am super excited about this one. Obviously, I'm sure you've seen this one everywhere. I have not read it. All I know is that it's about dragons, and that's like pretty much it. I don't know, again, much about this one. I kind of like going into my books not knowing too much about them, and also because I don't want to be like swayed one way or the other. Sometimes I'll read a book and I'll like feel a certain way, and then I'll go read the reviews on it, and it like sways me. So I try not to like look up too much about what they're about. So those are the books that we're going to be reading for today's video, and I hope you guys enjoy. And if you've watched any of my reading vlogs, you know that it's basically just me reading, telling you how I feel, me in sweats, no makeup, just hanging out with you. So I'm going to read a little bit more of The Ballad of Never After, and I am going to listen to this playlist that I found on Spotify. I went on Spotify and I just typed in Once Upon a Broken Heart like reading playlist, and I found a good one so far, so I've just been like listening to that while I'm reading. I've really been enjoying like mood reading, setting the mood with certain music, and I just read The Only One Left by Riley Sager, and oh my gosh, I loved that book so much. That's like one of my favorite reads of the year, if not my favorite read of the year, maybe like my second favorite read of the year. But I listened to like psychological thriller music, and it was so scary with that book, but it was like really fun too. So I definitely suggest doing that if you want to listen to some music. Like, I like instrumental because if I have words, then I'm gonna start singing along. So I kind of like, I would rather instrumental music. But I'm just gonna read a little bit more right here. I'm just sitting at the dining table right now. I don't know, I felt like sitting up and having my book on a table, so we're just gonna get into this a little bit more and chill. Again, it's a Sunday. I'm excited to get some reading done. 49 now, so I haven't gotten too much further, but I'm already really into it because kind of like every chapter is ending on a little cliffhanger, which if you've read the first book, you know, like it ends on a big cliffhanger, so it really makes you want to read the second book. And I'm surprised I took this long to read the second book. But they just like revealed something. I can't say like too much if you haven't read the first book, but I just finished chapter 5 and it's like crazy. So I'm very glad it's starting out like that, because when I was reading the first book, I kind of wasn't as into it in the beginning until we started to get to a lot more like twists and turns, and when Jax was in it a lot, which Jax is the Prince of Hearts in this story. So it is kind of like a fairy tale fantasy. You know, the first book was called Once Upon a Broken Heart, so it's very much like whimsical writing, and I've never read a fantasy like that, and I haven't even read too much fantasy, so I'm excited to read these fantasy books. There is going to be a third book, but I think it comes out like in October or November, and then I think that's the end of this series if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, it's very like a cozy fairy tale fantasy, and it is YA, so it's not immature writing. I really like her writing, but it's like very easy to read, so if you want to get into fantasy and kind of like fairy tale stuff, I suggest this one. But yeah, I'm already really liking it so far, and I want to like keep going. She has short chapters, and they're bringing back some characters from the first book that were problematic, and so I'm excited to see, you know, what happens with them. And of course I love Jax, even though he's like not a good guy, but I bet he'll end up being a good guy. But yeah, I'm liking it so far a lot. Guys, it is the next day, and it is actually much later in the day. It's like 5 o'clock on Monday, and I am on page 216, so I am now over halfway, because I think it's like exactly 400 pages. I read quite a bit yesterday, and I read a little bit this morning when I was at the gym on the treadmill, but other than that I haven't had a chance to read today because I've been working, but I'm off the clock for the rest of the day, so I'm going to read a little bit now and then probably some more later. But basically the update is I'm still really enjoying it. I'm not like obsessed with this book like a few people are, and I kind of wish I was, but I'm really enjoying it. I really like it. I like Evangeline, I love Jax, but it's still like kind of a silly story. I don't know, like I'm enjoying it, not much negative to say. I'm just not obsessed. Like that's kind of, I guess, where I'm at, and maybe by the end of the book I will be, you know, hopefully anticipating the third book. But yeah, that's kind of my update for now. Again, I can't go into too many details because this is the second book, but basically there is still some things that I really want to like figure out, especially with like Jax, and hopefully I can't like figure out what it is before it happens. Like, I guess this isn't a giveaway, but in the first book and in this book, he's like always has an apple with him, like he's always eating an apple. And in this book he said something like there's a reason, and so I'm interested in that. I know it's like a very small aspect, I don't know, maybe it could be a big aspect, but there's little things like that that haven't been revealed yet, so I'm looking forward to that. And obviously with the Valerie Arch, I'm looking forward to figuring that out as well. Some of it gives me ACOTAR vibes in the sense of like they're trying to unlock something. That kind of reminds me of ACOTAR, certain books from ACOTAR. And also Jax gives me Rhysand vibes, and although Rhysand is superior than Jax, I have to say, as of now, but I'm just getting kind of those vibes, and I'm like, I don't know. I still like him, I still like Jax a lot. Maybe I just like those kind of fictional boyfriends, fictional men. But yeah, still really enjoying it, and gonna read a little bit now, and hopefully can finish this like tomorrow. That would be really nice, a good start to our reading fantasy for a week, so that I can keep it going. I think this is gonna be the fastest one I read, just in the terms of like context, and I know Fourth Wing is pretty long, so I'm really excited to read Divine Rivals though, especially because I'm doing a little book club with that, so that's fun. It is Tuesday night now, and I have finished The Ballad of Never After, which is the second book, Once Upon a Broken Heart series, and I finished this today, and I think I'm gonna give this a 3 stars as of now. I don't really see that changing, but sometimes my rating changes over time. Right now I'm giving this a 3 stars. I think I might have liked the first book a little bit better, especially the end of the first book. This book definitely ended off on a little cliffhanger, just like the first book did. So I'm excited to read the third book that comes out, and I am gonna read it, but it's just not my favorite series. I definitely would suggest this book if you kind of want like a fairy tale cozy fantasy, but it was a little bit all over the place, this book, a little bit for me. It was like almost too much going on, and also Evangeline kind of made me mad in certain parts of it, but Jax still is the best part of this series in my opinion. So I still liked it, but it wasn't the best. Still felt a little bit immature. I definitely like, I think, more high stake fantasy, even though this is high stake, but it's like kind of more like silly, whimsical fairy tale stuff, which sounds really good, and I think I want to read more cozy fantasy and whimsical stuff, and maybe I'll like that, and maybe I'll just get more used to it. But after reading like ACOTAR and things like that, I don't know, like I'm just not the biggest fan. But so many people love that book and love this series, but I just think it's like okay, like I enjoy reading it, but also after I'm done reading it I don't really think about it again. So it was a good read, and tomorrow I'm either gonna start Fourth Wing or Divine Rivals. I don't know which one I'm gonna read first. I know I said I'll read Fourth Wing last, but I don't know. We'll see. Tomorrow I'll obviously let you guys know. I decided to read Divine Rivals next. I wanted to save Fourth Wing for last, but I also wanted to go ahead and start this one because it's a little bit shorter than Fourth Wing. But I am on page 36, and as you guys saw, I also have decided to annotate this one. I'm not really sure what made me want to do that, other than I feel like I've heard that the writing is good in this book, so I was like, why not annotate this one? And also this book has to do with like writing letters and notes, and so I don't know, I think I'm really gonna enjoy that because I tend to like books where like letters are involved and people writing to each other. But this one, basically, so far I'm not too far into it, but it is about a girl, Iris, and obviously this is fantasy, so it's like in a different world, but so far the world building has been okay. It's pretty simple. They're just regular humans, and there is like this war going on between like gods and goddesses from like years ago, and they've like reawoken and now they're at war. And so there is people that are being summoned to war, and Iris's brother is getting like summoned to go to war, and that's kind of how the book starts. And so she decides she wants to write letters to her brother, and they kind of go unanswered, obviously, because she's kind of just, it's more therapeutic for her. And all of a sudden she's getting one back to her, and it's not from her brother. So that's kind of what it's about so far, and I don't want to give too much away, but I am actually really enjoying it. It's taking me a minute to get into it, just from, I feel like every book takes a minute, and also the words are really tiny as compared to the last book that I was reading. Okay, Michael just walked in and Nora is drinking water. I forgot what I was saying, but I'm enjoying it. I'm gonna read a little bit more tonight, but I'll probably film more tomorrow. But I don't know if I said today's Wednesday. Today's Wednesday, tomorrow's Thursday. I feel like this one might take me a minute to get through because it seems a lot more involved than the last book I was reading. Why did I already forget what that was called? Oh, The Ballad of Never After. That one's a very easy read. So I feel like this one's a little bit more intellectual, which I'm actually really excited about, and I really do like her writing so far. Hello guys, it is a new day. Today is Thursday and I am done with work for the day, so I'm about to sit down and get a little bit of reading done before I go to the gym. And I don't know if I showed y'all, but the book without the cover is so pretty. It's like of a typewriter and it says Dear Iris, so I love that. I love a pretty cover when you take like the hardcover sleeve off, because I usually take it off to read, but I love when there's like a little something on the cover, a little surprise. I did make it to page, let's see, what page is this? 56 last night, Still very much enjoying it. I'm liking this a lot. Very into it right now. I think because, like I mentioned, it does have to do with like letters. I just love that. I love how she's writing. Not much of an update from last night because this is the first time I'm filming, and then last night I just read a little bit and fell asleep. But I'm just gonna get a little bit of reading done, and hopefully I'll update you guys a little bit later today or tomorrow. You guys know what page I'm on. I most likely will read at the gym while I walk on the treadmill because it's day 1 of my cycle today, so I don't really feel like doing much other than walking at the gym. But yeah, I'll read a little bit there. Definitely keep you guys updated. I definitely recommend this book so far, so let's get to some reading. Also, if you guys have seen the movie You've Got Mail, it's kind of an older movie, but it's really, really cute. And I'm getting a little bit of that while I'm reading this book because they're writing letters back and forth. And one of the people involved knows who the other person is, but the other one doesn't. I definitely am getting that kind of vibe, which is very cozy and cute. So I kind of wanted to mention that because I feel like I saw someone else mention You've Got Mail, and definitely I started thinking about that when I was reading this. So I definitely am like feeling that. Divine Rivals. It is now Sunday, but I finished it last night on Saturday, and I just needed a minute to think about this book. And if you hear something in the background, Mike is watching a movie, but I needed a minute to really just digest this book because I'm giving this a 5 stars. I'm giving this a 5 stars. I loved this book so much. I annotated the heck out of this book. I loved it so much. I liked it so much more than I was anticipating, and I think I was a little bit skeptical because it is a little bit about mythology. There is some gods involved in it, and if you know me, I'm not into mythology. I'm not into Greek mythology. Anything that really defies the one true God, I'm not into, but I really went into this with an open heart and was like, okay, if I feel convicted about anything, then I'm gonna put it down. And I never once did, and it was a really good read. It definitely is fantasy, obviously, but I feel like the mythical element was okay. It was very much fantasy, and I was able to, I don't know, set that aside and just dive into their world, and I enjoyed it so much. Rebecca Ross, her writing is beautiful. I think one of the most beautiful writing I have ever read ever, and all the blue tabs is actually moments when I really appreciated her writing. I pretty much appreciated her writing throughout the whole book, but all the blue tabs, that's what I was having for. And so there's just so many blue tabs because it was so lovely. I really loved the letter and typewriter aspect of this book. I know I've said that, but like, that's the romance in this book is just the romance. If there wasn't the romance that there was, I wouldn't have liked it as much, but the writing is what made it a 5. The romance is what made it a 5. Also, the plot, obviously, I loved too. A lot of it had to do with war, and I very much appreciated that. Surprisingly, didn't really think I would like much war books, but I really liked when they were involved in the war. It was really interesting, and I cannot wait for the second book. I think it comes out next year, if I'm not mistaken. And this is a duology. I just looked that up last night, so it's going to be this book and one more book. So I really appreciate that as well, because a lot of fantasy, it's a long series. So this is not a series that is scary to get into because there's only 2 books. And it does leave on a cliffhanger, huge cliffhanger. Like, I need the second book as soon as possible. I love this. I really suggest this, especially if you are starting fantasy. It is not too heavy on the fantasy side. It is very much human, like they're humans, the main people, and it's about war, but the war seems pretty, it's almost like if you're reading about like World War II or something, like it's set back, and then obviously then there is the fantasy mythical aspect of the gods, but that wasn't like too evident, and I feel like it was like the perfect amount of fantasy versus reality combined. So I feel like it's a very good, easy read if you're jumping into fantasy. The writing is just beautiful, very lyrical, very poetic. The romance, I love Roman so much. Oh, their romance is just amazing. I could see how some people think that it is a little bit insta-lovey, but I didn't feel that because of the timing. It's like set back. Also, this is fantasy, so I didn't take it to like how things are in real life. So I don't know, I loved it. I love the fantasy. I cannot wait to read the second one. And now I'm going to start Fourth Wing sometime today. Again, this is Sunday, so it has now been a week, but I'm starting my last and final book, so I'm excited. I am anticipating me liking Fourth Wing just as much. I don't know what I'm gonna do if I like it more, because it is very hard for me to rate a book 5 stars, and I took a minute. I wanted to rate this 5 stars while I was reading it, and then when I finished I was like, okay, let me make sure I want to rate this 5 stars, because I have only rated one other book 5 star in the year of 2023, and this is only the second one that I'm rating 5 stars. So I'm thinking Fourth Wing might be a 5 star too, just based on what people are saying. But the writing in this book, I think, is what also really got me there, in the romance. So we will see how I like Fourth Wing, and I'm really excited to start that one. Of a new week, and I'm gonna give y'all a little update on Fourth Wing, because I don't think I've done a little update yet. But as you guys saw, I decided that I am going to also listen to it on audiobook, honestly, kind of while I'm reading. Like, I'm literally reading it but also listening to it, because I started this and I probably got like 30 or 40 pages in, and it was just going so slow. And I feel like that's how fantasy books start out when you are starting a new series, because, you know, there's a little bit of world building, there's new words, new names. But for some reason, like, I couldn't get into this, and it was just going so slow. Like, it wasn't that it was boring, but there was a lot of different names, a lot of different things I was trying to picture, and it was just a lot compared to Divine Rivals. I feel like that was very easy to get into, and this one was just taking me a minute. So I was like, I'm gonna listen to this on audiobook while I'm reading and see if that helps, like, me pronounce them in my head, because I was like, I don't know how to pronounce these names of these things. So that helped a lot, and so I'm listening to that while I'm reading. And I started yesterday, which was, today's Monday, yesterday was Sunday, and I'm on page 88 on chapter 8. And this is a big book. This is like 500 pages, so a little daunting. I haven't read this big of a book in a while, but it is getting better. I'm getting more used to the writing. So far I'm still liking Divine Rivals like a lot better. Like, I don't know, like, this is good, but I'm not getting the hype quite yet, other than the fact that dragons are cool. But I'm also liking the male main character, who's, like, you know, her rival right now, but I'm liking him, surprisingly. Just kidding, not really surprisingly. But I am liking him so far. Of course, he's like the bad boy. Of course, I'm liking him right away, but we all know how that's probably gonna go. So that's kind of my update. I'm gonna read a little bit more today. My workload is very light today, so I get to get a lot of reading / listening done. I am still reading some of it without listening to it. Like last night I got sick of listening to it, so I was just reading. But it definitely is helping me kind of get through something that was a little bit harder for me to get into. But that's pretty much the update, and I'm enjoying it so far, but definitely like Divine Rivals a lot more already, like, at this point, I guess. Okay, it is many days later, and I will get to that reason why in a minute. I'm on the last chapter of Fourth Wing. I only have, let's see, like 8-9 pages left. So I wanted to film me reading the last part of this book, because I've heard, like, obviously it ends on a cliffhanger. Yeah, so I'm just gonna film me reading this last chapter, and then I will discuss it with you guys. Let's talk. Okay, so I just finally finished Fourth Wing, and I said that this was going to be a week reading vlog. I knew it would probably be more, but it has now been 2 weeks because of this book. So I'll give you my thoughts just quickly of why it took me forever, and then my thoughts on, like, what I think of the book. So this took me forever because it put me in a slump. I am in a slump. I don't know why. This is supposed to get you out of a slump. This book is so hyped up. And usually I don't really give into hypes. I thought that, yes, this was going to be good, maybe a 5 star, but I was very, very sadly disappointed. And I don't know if it was because I read Divine Rivals right before I read this and I loved Divine Rivals, but for some reason this just put me into a big slump. The names in this book of all these dragons and other things are just so convoluted, unnecessarily convoluted, and I know that they have like Irish descent, some of the names, but it was just, I had to listen to the audiobook to know how to pronounce half of the things in this book. And usually stuff like that doesn't bother me as much. Like, I like intellectual writing, but it was almost like it was trying to be intellectual and it made it so convoluted, certain parts of the book. I thought the setting was really cool for the book, but they did not describe the way it looks very well. I had to keep looking up stuff. I feel like I had to just like decide on what it looked like versus them telling me and just go with that. I feel like they could have done such a better job describing the school of dragons, of training. Like, they could have done so much better with the setting, because it was such a cool thought, but it was like it wasn't implemented well. So that really bothered me and made it slow to me. I just didn't really want to keep coming back to the book. That's why it took me so long. I don't know why I felt this way when everyone loves this book. I felt like the pacing was off. Like, sometimes it was really good and I wanted to keep reading, and sometimes it just, I didn't want to read it at all. I was just bored and didn't really care what was happening. I also thought it was very predictable, especially at the end. It did end on a cliffhanger, but like everything that I was anticipating happened. So it wasn't anything new. And I also feel like this book is like other books put into one, like Hunger Games, Divergent, like, and then Harry Potter in this book. And I just feel like it was all those things thrown together, but also wasn't done as well as those books and movies. So that's kind of how I feel about this one. And my rating right now off the bat after finishing it would be 3 stars. I usually give myself a little bit of time to think about my rating, and sometimes I change it, but that seems pretty solid. Like, it was not bad, but I think because of how it was so hyped up, it definitely did not live up to the hype. To me, I felt like it could have been written and done in such a better way. Not that the writing was bad, but it also wasn't good, in my opinion. I really liked Xaden, but I also feel like their romance could have been like a little bit better. And it was almost like stealing a little bit to me of Rhysand's vibe too much. And I don't know if it's like a shadow thing. I don't know. They all look like they look the same. Like, I don't know. Rhysand was done better. I definitely think Sarah J Maas's books were written better than this one. I would give it like a 3 stars, and I just hate to say that. I don't know if it's my timing of reading it, but I just didn't, like, I liked it, and I suggest reading it if you're interested in it because it was fun, but it wasn't like anywhere near as good as Divine Rivals. Divine Rivals writing was like amazing. Yeah, I'm disappointed if you can't tell, and it took me so long to read this book. It took me a week to read this dang book. I'm a little like upset about it, and hopefully no one comes at me, but let me know if you felt the same way about this book, if this is overhyped, because in my opinion this is one of the most overhyped books I've come across. Like, I don't really get the hype. Like, I've seen so many videos of people like, oh, they put crack in this book, it makes me want to turn the page, it makes me like, I want to reread this book already. No, I will not be rereading this book. I will not be going through that again. And I even listened to a lot of it on audiobook. Mainly I was following along while I was listening to it, but every once in a while, if I was going on a walk or something, I would listen to it, and I felt like I couldn't follow along unless I was reading it. I don't know. It just could have been better. 3 stars, sadly. So that is it for today's week of reading fantasy books. I hope you guys enjoyed. So what did we read first? We read the second book in the Once Upon a Broken Heart series, which was The Ballad of Never After. That was the first book we read. That felt like so long ago, but it was just 2 weeks ago. Now it's been 2 weeks, but I rated that like a 3 stars. I think I would rate that one a 3 stars as well as this one. I did like this one a little bit more, so maybe this is like 3.25, but we read The Ballad of Never After first. That was kind of like a fun fairy tale fantasy read, and then we read Divine Rivals, which I gave 5 stars. I have only given 2 books this year 5 stars, so I'm kind of a tough rater with my 5 stars, and I gave that a 5 stars. I really suggest that book. I really like that book. I can't wait for the second one to come out, and I think it's a duology. I don't know if I said that, so meaning there's only going to be 2 books, which I'm excited about because in a lot of fantasy books the series is so long, so it can be daunting. So when there's like a duology or a trilogy in fantasy books, I really like that, and so I gave that one 5 stars. I really suggest that one. And then I read Fourth Wing, And I'm giving this one, as of right now, a 3 stars. Come back for my monthly reading wrap up because maybe I will change it by then when I talk about these books in my wrap up. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know of other videos you want to see, other weekly reads you want to see, like I did reading thrillers for a week, and now I've done reading fantasy for a week. I would love to do romance or other genres, whatever you guys want to see. Let me know, and please let me know your thoughts on Fourth Wing because I would love to chat about it. But thanks for stopping by my channel, and hope to see you guys soon. Bye.